Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that many men find confusing and frustrating. Why does a woman who loves you sometimes seem to ignore you? It's easy to misinterpret her silence as rejection, but the reality is far more complex. In many cases, when a woman pulls away, it's not because she has lost interest, but because of deeper psychological and emotional dynamics. Fear of vulnerability, subconscious testing, emotional processing. There are countless reasons why she might step back, even when she genuinely cares. So, how should you respond? Should you chase her, confront her, or give her space? In this video, we'll break down the key reasons behind this behavior, and more importantly, how you can handle it with confidence and emotional intelligence. Remember to stick around until the end, because understanding this concept could change how you approach relationships forever. Let's get started. 1. Emotional vulnerability and fear of getting hurt. Love in its purest form demands a level of openness that can feel both exhilarating and terrifying. For a woman who has experienced betrayal or heartbreak, allowing herself to be vulnerable again is not a simple choice. It is a risk. The fear of being hurt once more lingers beneath the surface, shaping her reactions in ways that may seem contradictory. When emotions run deep, her instinct may not be to move closer, but to pull away, creating distance as a defense mechanism against potential pain. This withdrawal is rarely about a lack of interest. On the contrary, the stronger her feelings, the more likely she is to retreat. A woman who has been wounded in the past knows too well the cost of unchecked vulnerability. She has learned that love can bring both joy and suffering, and the walls she builds are not meant to push a man away, but to protect herself from the possibility of disappointment. Ignoring him, delaying responses, or keeping interactions at arm's length may not be signs of disinterest, but rather an internal struggle between wanting to connect and fearing the consequences. A man who recognizes this fear for what it is can approach the situation with patience rather than frustration. Instead of taking her hesitation as rejection, he can see it as an opportunity to build trust. Consistency, understanding, and emotional safety are what she needs most. When she feels that she is with someone who respects her pace, who does not demand immediate openness but earns it over time, the walls begin to lower. A woman's ability to love profoundly does not disappear after heartbreak. It becomes guarded. She may test a man's intentions, observe his actions, and hesitate before fully letting him in. But when she feels safe and knows that her heart will be handled with care rather than recklessness, she will no longer need to protect herself at all costs. She will allow herself to be vulnerable, not because she no longer fears being hurt, but because she has found someone who makes the risk worth taking. 2. The subconscious testing of emotional strength. Women often assess a man's emotional resilience in neither direct nor intentional ways. One of the most telling tests is withdrawal, whether by pulling back emotionally, becoming less responsive, or creating a subtle distance. This is not always a conscious strategy, but rather an instinctive way of gauging his ability to handle uncertainty. How a man reacts in these moments speaks volumes about his emotional stability, confidence, and maturity. If he responds with desperation, chasing after her, demanding explanations, or becoming overly emotional, it signals a lack of control over his emotions. If he grows frustrated, acting out in irritation or passive aggressiveness, it suggests insecurity rather than strength. A woman does not need to hear a man say he is emotionally intense. She observes how he navigates discomfort. The more he struggles with the unknown, the more he reveals an underlying need for external validation. On the other hand, a man who remains composed when a woman pulls away sends an entirely different message. His calmness is not indifference, but rather an unshaken sense of self-worth. He understands that emotions fluctuate, that attraction ebbs and flows, and that momentary distance does not dictate genuine connection. Instead of seeking reassurance, he stands firm in his confidence, knowing that a woman's interest is not something he needs to chase, but naturally aligns when a mutual connection exists. Women are drawn to men who exude emotional security because it creates a sense of trust and stability. A man who does not waver under uncertainty, who does not react impulsively to moments of withdrawal, reassures her in ways that words never could. Emotional strength is not about suppressing feelings, but demonstrating control over them. And when a man masters this, he commands respect and naturally earns a woman's more profound admiration and attraction. 3. The need for emotional processing and space. Love, attraction, and connection can be exhilarating, but they can also be overwhelming. Not everyone processes emotions at the same speed, and emotional intensity requires time for many women to understand fully. When a woman pulls away or becomes distant, it is not always a sign of disinterest. Often it is her way of creating space to evaluate her feelings, determine her emotions' depth, and understand what she truly wants. For a man, this pause in communication can feel unsettling. The instinct is to seek reassurance, to ask questions, and to close the perceived gap before it grows. But a woman who takes time for herself is not necessarily retreating, she is recalibrating. Emotional processing is rarely linear, and while a man may experience emotions more straightforwardly, a woman often moves through waves of introspection. She replays moments, weighs the implications of her feelings, and considers the long-term effects of her choices. How a man responds to this need for space reveals his level of emotional intelligence. A man who respects her need for distance without pressuring her for answers demonstrates an understanding that deepens attraction. He shows confidence in himself and trust in the connection, allowing her the freedom to return on her terms rather than out of obligation. This patience is not passive. It is an active expression of security, a silent assurance that he does not need to chase what is already meant for him. A woman values a man who understands that silence is not rejection, that distance is not abandonment. If she knows she can take the time she needs without fear of losing his respect or presence, she will feel safer, more connected, and more drawn to him in the long run. Actual attraction is not about constant closeness, but about creating a space where both people can process their emotions freely, without fear, without pressure, and with the trust that what is real will always find its way back. 4. The psychological principle of scarcity and challenge. Human nature is drawn to what feels just out of reach. The principle of scarcity is a fundamental aspect of psychology. When something is perceived as rare, difficult to attain, or slightly unattainable, its value increases. This applies not only to material possessions but also to human relationships. A woman who maintains a sense of independence and does not always make herself readily available naturally commands greater attention. She becomes more intriguing and desirable, not because she is playing a game, but because she engages in a dynamic that has existed for centuries. When a woman withdraws, even subtly, it often triggers a man's instinct to pursue. This reaction is not rooted in manipulation but in a deep-seated psychological response. People tend to appreciate and invest more in what they feel they must work for. If something is given too quickly or without effort, it is often taken for granted. A woman who does not immediately seek validation or overextend herself to gain attention sends a powerful message. Her time and presence are valuable. Attraction thrives in a space where interest and challenge coexist. If a woman makes herself too available, always responding instantly or adjusting her life to accommodate someone else, the natural tension that fuels desire can fade. But she becomes worth pursuing when maintaining her rhythm and sense of purpose. A man begins to see her as someone who fills a role, and as an individual with depth, confidence, and self-respect. This is not about playing hard to get or creating unnecessary distance. It is about understanding the natural ebb and flow of attraction. A relationship built on genuine connection requires balance. Too much predictability can lead to complacency, while a sense of challenge keeps both individuals engaged. When a woman respects her boundaries and prioritizes her life, she fosters a dynamic where mutual appreciation can grow. The value of her presence is not diminished by over-availability, but reinforced by the space she allows for attraction to build. 5. Self-preservation from over-investment. A woman who has experienced the sting of unreciprocated feelings knows the danger of investing too much too soon. Through past disappointments, she has learned that vulnerability is not always rewarded, that effort does not always lead to commitment, and that giving too much of herself without knowing where she stands can lead to heartbreak. This understanding shapes the way she approaches new connections. Instead of rushing forward, she hesitates. Instead of chasing, she retreats. This withdrawal is not a sign of disinterest, but rather an act of self-preservation. She may pull away even when she feels a strong attraction, not because she lacks feelings, but because she refuses to let those feelings dictate her actions before she knows they are safe. Ignoring a man, delaying responses, or keeping interactions at a distance can be her way of slowing down the emotional progression of a relationship. It is her way of ensuring that she does not become too vulnerable before knowing if the man in question is willing to meet her at the same level of emotional investment. For a man on the receiving end, this behavior can be confusing. He may misinterpret her hesitation as a lack of interest, when, in reality, she is observing, measuring, and waiting. She wants to see if he is consistent, if he makes an effort, and if he values her presence without needing constant reassurance. She is not playing a game, nor is she trying to manipulate. She is simply protecting herself from the pain of another one-sided connection. Women who have loved deeply and been left empty-handed do not take emotional risks lightly. They tread carefully, not because they do not want love, but because they understand its cost. When a woman distances herself, it is often not a rejection, but a test of patience. If a man can navigate this space with understanding rather than frustration, he may find that her hesitance was never about pushing him away, but making sure he was someone worth pulling closer. 6. Societal expectations and learned behavior. Many women are taught to be cautious with their emotions from an early age, especially regarding romantic interests. Society often reinforces the idea that a woman who is too expressive, eager, or available risks being seen as desperate or lacking value. This conditioning shapes how she navigates relationships, particularly in the early stages. Rather than openly expressing affection, she may choose restraint, waiting for clear signs of mutual interest before allowing herself to be fully invested. This learned behavior is not always a conscious decision. It is deeply ingrained through cultural norms, past experiences, and how she observes other women being treated. She may have seen how those who express their feelings too soon are met with indifference or rejection, while those who hold back often seem to command more respect and intrigue. As a result, she instinctively guards herself, allowing distance to act as a filter to determine whether a man is genuinely interested in her or merely entertained by the chase. Ignoring, delaying responses, or appearing emotionally reserved can serve as a way for her to maintain dignity. It is not necessarily a lack of interest, but a strategic approach to protect herself from investing in something uncertain. She wants to be sure that the attention she receives is genuine, and that the man she is drawn to beyond just the excitement of pursuit. For a man who does not understand this dynamic, her hesitation might be misinterpreted as rejection or disinterest, but in reality it is often a test of patience, an unspoken way of ensuring the connection is built on mutual respect rather than fleeting attraction. When she finally does open up, she feels safe enough to do so, knowing that her emotions will be met with sincerity rather than dismissal. 7. Emotional boundaries and independence. When a woman pulls away, it is not always a sign of fading affection. Sometimes it is a necessary step toward reaffirming her individuality, a quiet moment of self-reflection, in a love that can feel all-consuming. Emotional boundaries are not barriers to intimacy. They are safeguards that allow a relationship to breathe, to remain balanced, and to thrive without either partner losing themselves in the process. For a woman, love is about togetherness and the freedom to exist as her person. The deeper the connection, the more critical it becomes for her to ensure she does not lose sight of who she is outside of the relationship. Stepping back, whether through solitude, personal pursuits, or simply a temporary withdrawal, is often her way of maintaining that sense of self. She is not rejecting her partner, she is reaffirming her own identity. A man who understands this and does not react with insecurity or possessiveness shows that he values her for more than just what she brings to the relationship. He sees her as a complete individual, not just someone who exists about him. Trust deepens when a woman feels she can take space without causing unnecessary conflict, step away momentarily, and return without suspicion or tension. The healthiest relationships are those where love does not suffocate, but supports. When a man respects a woman's need for independence, he strengthens their bond. A love built on freedom rather than pressure is the kind that lasts. 8. The role of past trauma and relationship experiences. A woman's approach to emotional closeness is never formed in isolation. Her past shapes it. By the love she has given, the trust she has placed, and the pain she has endured. For those who have experienced toxic relationships or emotional manipulation, closeness does not always feel safe. It can carry the weight of past betrayals, making vulnerability a risk rather than a comfort. When a woman hesitates to engage fully, or seems distant or unresponsive, despite clear signs of interest, it is rarely about disinterest. More often, it is a conditioned response, a protective instinct learned from past wounds. She may ignore messages not because she wants to push a man away, but because she needs to know whether he will persist with patience or retreat at the first sign of difficulty. She may test the waters, withdrawing slightly to see if he remains steady. It is not a game but a survival strategy to ensure that emotional investment will not lead to the same disappointment she has known. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for a man who is genuinely interested in her. Responding with frustration, pressure, or impatience will only reinforce her fears. But a man who remains present without demanding, who offers reassurance without expecting immediate openness, becomes someone she can slowly begin to trust. He does not push past her walls. He stands near them, allowing her to decide when to let him in. Healing from past pain is never immediate, nor is it linear. Some days she may seem warm and open, only to retreat again when vulnerability feels overwhelming. It is in these moments that a man's consistency matters most. When he proves, through his steadiness, that he is not another source of hurt but a place of safety, the walls begin to lower. Trust, once shattered, is not rebuilt through grand gestures but through quiet, unwavering presence. And when she finally feels secure enough to step forward, it is not just a moment of connection, it is a victory over the ghosts of her past. 9. The importance of emotional safety and trust. When a woman pulls away, it is often not a rejection but a test that speaks to her more profound need for emotional safety. Many men misinterpret silence as disinterest or dismissal, but distance can be a way for a woman to assess whether a man offers the stability she craves. If she feels pressured for closeness, if he reacts with frustration or impatience to her withdrawal, it reinforces a fear that being vulnerable with him may not be safe. Trust is not built in moments of easy connection. It is solidified in how a man responds when she creates space. If he remains steady, consistent, and respectful, it sends a clear message that his presence is not conditional on immediate reciprocity. This patience reassures her that he is not simply seeking validation, but is genuinely invested in understanding her at a deeper level. A woman who feels emotionally safe does not rush. She moves at a pace that allows her to feel secure in her choices. Many men make the mistake of chasing when a woman becomes distant, believing that more effort will pull her back. However, proper emotional security is demonstrated in restraint, the ability to hold space for her without demanding immediate answers. If she senses that he is unaffected by her moments of retreat, not because he does not care but because he trusts the natural rhythm of connection, she is far more likely to return with greater openness. A woman does not ignore a man without reason. If she steps back, she is observing, feeling, and evaluating. And the man who understands this, who does not react with neediness or frustration, proves that he is someone she can lean on, not just in moments of closeness, but in the times she needs reassurance the most. 10. How a man should respond. When faced with uncertainty in a relationship, many men instinctively react with frustration, searching for immediate answers or validation, but the most potent response is not to chase, demand, or force clarity. It is to remain grounded and hold steady in his emotional balance. A man who can maintain composure in moments of ambiguity communicates a rare kind of confidence that speaks not through words, but through presence. A woman may pull away, whether due to internal conflicts, external pressures, or unspoken emotions she is still processing. If a man reacts with impatience or desperation, he risks creating more distance. But if he gives her space while remaining consistent in his actions, he builds something far more valuable: trust. In this quiet, steady space, a woman feels safe to return, knowing that his presence is not conditional on immediate reassurance. This does not mean withdrawing entirely or adopting a cold detachment. It means demonstrating reliability without pressure and showing care without expectation. Small, consistent gestures, thoughtful check-ins, genuine attentiveness, a steady presence without demands, create a foundation of emotional strength. A man who can navigate uncertainty with calmness and quiet confidence becomes someone a woman can rely on, not just in moments of ease, but in the complexities of real connection. The attraction may spark interest, but emotional stability deepens and sustains a bond. A man who can respond with patience, quiet strength, and unwavering self-assurance does not need to chase. He allows the connection to unfold naturally, creating a dynamic where a woman feels drawn to him, not out of pressure, but of genuine desire. When a woman ignores a man despite having deep feelings for him, it is rarely a sign of indifference. More often it reflects a complex mix of emotional self-protection, subconscious testing, and a deep-seated need for security. Love, for many, is not just about connection, it is also about navigating fears, vulnerabilities, and past experiences that shape how one expresses affection. Understanding this dynamic allows a man to respond with patience, confidence, and emotional intelligence, rather than frustration or self-doubt. Instead of seeing her silence as rejection, he should recognize it as part of relationship's natural ebb and flow, a moment that requires steadiness rather than an impulsive reaction. True emotional strength lies in maintaining composure, respecting her need for space, and fostering trust through consistency rather than pressure. The ability to gracefully navigate uncertainty is at the heart of any meaningful connection. When a man embodies this mindset, he strengthens the relationship and deepens his self-worth. Instead of chasing validation, he stands firm in his value, creating a dynamic where love can flourish naturally. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced this kind of dynamic in a relationship? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content on relationships, self-improvement, and emotional intelligence. See you in the next one.